Welcome. If you just joined, go ahead and pop in the chat where you are from. And if you leave movement sessions or if you're any kind of movement leader, go ahead and put that in the chat as well. If you don't and you want to share what your job is, feel free to share that as well. Okay, let's give it one more minute and we're going to get started. So this was going to be a very interactive session. I do not have slides for this session because I really wanted it to be more conversational and collaborative learning rather than me sharing slides with you. So I hope you all are open to being collaborative and interactive and using the chat. Tallahassee, Florida. All right, great. Excellent. Thank you for sharing. So I am in Colorado Springs, Colorado, centrally located. Calgary, great. Excellent. So I'm training seniors. Excellent. Great. You are in the right place. Okay, so for those that are watching this recording, because this is going to be recorded, I don't know how this is going to land as watching the recording because this is supposed to be very interactive and asking questions, hi Kaylee, and have it be more collaborative learning rather than me just showing you slides. And if you're already coaching movement sessions, great. Catherine, welcome. Catherine has actually already taken this training with me live. So welcome to the virtual version, Catherine, and feel free to pop into the chat where you are from and what kind of sessions you lead or how you work with older adults or just your job. Any of those is fine. Okay, excellent. All right, so no slides for this whole presentation. I am experimenting with a new way of doing sessions and not just doing webinars, but doing more of learning labs is what I'm calling it for Agents of Movement. So if you're new to Agents of Movement, I do webinars, learning labs once a month. And I've been doing webinars in the past, but this is going to be a new way of learning. I've been doing this live. I did this presentation live, so I'm going to see how this transfers to Zoom. We will have an opportunity to do breakout rooms. And if you choose not to do a breakout room, you are more than welcome to opt out. You do not have to, but it's a great chance to kind of work in smaller groups and have discussions and rather than in a larger group, larger being 7 people. So, okay, so what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about recognizing common fears, the impact that it has in movement participation, understanding the relationship between confidence, self-efficacy, and physical activity. We're going to talk about leadership behaviors that either build or diminish confidence and what we can do as leaders to help build confidence. And a lot of that can be around language. And then we're going to talk about how we can create movement experiences that foster psychological safety and what psychological safety is. If you follow my newsletter, I just had a newsletter come out about psychological safety, which gets a lot of talk and press in the workplace, but it's something that we can also bring into our movement spaces as well. And then we're going to have an activity where we're going to apply some practical ideas and knowledge to coaching sessions and strategies and how we can help participants build up that confidence. Because as we all know, we've all had instances where we're in various scenarios where participants do not feel confident and maybe they feel scared to join. And so how do we work with that? How do we work with those behaviors and those different personality types that come into our sessions? So welcome, Kathy, you just joined. So if you just joined, feel free to pop in the chat where you are from and what kind of movement sessions you lead or your job. A couple more people coming in. Okay. So this is where I'm gonna welcome you to use chat. So to answer these questions, because we have just a large enough group that I think chat will be better to pop in your answers to this. But I want you to think about confidence in movement and what comes to mind with confidence. Like what words come to mind with confidence? How do you know someone is a confident mover? They're not going to tell you I'm confident in moving, right? It's going to show up in some way, shape, or form. And you can reflect on that. If you want to pop it in the chat, feel free to pop it in the chat. I'm thinking about like trying new things. Like you give them something new and they're willing to try it. That would be like a confident mover. Because a lot of these things are going to show up in how people present themselves. They're not always going body language. Yes. Yeah. And feel free to expand on that, Carlos, if there's like a certain body language that comes about. And camera, no camera, I don't care. I love to see you all, but you do not have to have your camera on. Yeah, body language can both communicate fear or it can communicate confidence as well. A chat. Where's the chat? Um, yeah, Catherine's from Iowa. Yeah, okay. Curious, ease of movement. Yeah, movement without hesitation, for sure. Hmm. Yes, Catherine teaches a very interesting class called Curious Movement, and she does it outside. Very cool. Keep their head up rather than looking down at their steps. Definitely. So it's those little subtle body language things that we can pick up on and see if someone's confident. Now, if we think about the reverse, if we think about fear, what does fear look like? Is there something that's opposite of besides what's opposite of what you said? So they're not trying new things, right? A lot of times they're gonna maybe opt out, um, saying no a lot, right? And I want you to tense look. Yes, yeah, facial expressions, body language, rigid, stiff. Yeah, for sure. There's not this like flowing movement to them. So when we think about fear with our participants, let's think about all the fears that they may have. So I think we can think of like, there could be fear of movement, like they've never done this before, right? So there could be that fear, but there could be a lot of other fears as well. So what are some other fears that our participants may have? Um, yeah, looking silly, falling. Yeah, falling is a big one. But a lot of times they're not going to say that, right? They're not going to say like, hey, I'm afraid of falling. So we have to look for those behaviors. Like they're not going to try new things. um, Injury, for sure. Getting hurt, yeah. We can also think about things that are more prevalent with this group too. Like maybe they know that there's some cognitive decline there. So maybe there's some embarrassment about being in a group setting and thinking that maybe they might not be able to keep up cognitively, or they might be not be able to follow directions, having pain. For sure. Failing at a task. Yes. So a lot of it, like us as coaches, can define what success and failure looks like, right? Like what is failing really? Negative experiences, judgment. Yeah, and it can also be fear of just based on their own beliefs. Like they think they're too old for something, right? Or they're not as good as everybody else, right? So how can we help people with those fears of that and judgment of being looking foolish, embarrassment? They're thinking that they might fall, they might have injury. We don't always know this. People aren't wearing a sign that they feel this way. But we want to be able to make them feel comfortable coming into a movement setting. Anytime people come into a class for the first time, I always think that takes a tremendous amount of courage to do that. I don't know if you think about going into a class the first time or doing anything new for the first time, it's scary. And if you do it by yourself, when you're not doing it with friends, really scary. Yeah, I'm not sure I can do that. Yes, it's beliefs. So sometimes people are just showing up and they're not participating because they don't believe that they can do something, even though there's no physical or past evidence that they can't do it. It's just a belief in their head. So sometimes as us as movement leaders, we need to decide like, is this truly something that they've tested that they can't do, or that they know for a fact, or is it a belief that they can't do it? So it's up to us to uncover that and be curious about people. So when people are avoiding something, the question is like, what's happening underneath that? Why don't they want to participate? Sometimes they come to class, right? So they want to be there, yet they're not going to participate in all of the class activities. So what is underneath that is what we want to figure out, which can be challenging in a group setting. So where does confidence come from? How do we get confidence? So think about things that you're very confident in. What gave you that confidence? And you feel free to put this in the chat. And there's going to be 4 things I'm going to talk about in particular based on Bandura's self-efficacy theory, but I'm guessing that we're going to uncover these ourselves because we've already experienced this to some degree and what's build our own confidence. And you can think about something that you are super confident doing, whether it's weightlifting or a sport or
Welcome
anything
to the
like that.
Stepping On Training Orient.
Kristen, go ahead.
Sorry. No, we're good.
Okay. All right. Um, so one of those things is just mastery experiences, right? So we've done a lot of it. We've just had so much experience doing this thing. We've been weightlifting for so long. We just have so many reps underneath us. We have so much time of doing a skill that we've built up that confidence. And so we have all the success to back us up, right? So having those mastery experiences are really super important. And we can that helps to build confidence. Another thing is social modeling. So this is something where we see people like ourselves do it, and then we think maybe we can do this too. And I think this is really, yeah, enjoyment and sense of success after a period of effort. Yes, definitely. So success, and then how you're defining success, right? So is success showing up? Is success completing it perfectly? How are we defining success? And how we define that can really help boost people's confidence. One simple way is my thing that I have for everybody that comes to class, you're here, you win. You've already won just because you showed up. And if you do nothing else, you've won because we know that that's half the battle so many times is that just showing up. So that's successful. So we can determine what success is and help define that for our participants where they might be coming up with their own mind. Well, I didn't do this perfectly. I didn't participate in this. I didn't participate. They're thinking of reasons why they're a failure. Bless you.
Sorry. Didn't realize my audio was on.
That's okay.
Oh gosh. Sorry.
No worries. We're a small group here. We're a friendly bunch. Um, so I'm going to go back to social modeling. So if we see people like ourselves doing something, then we start to think, well, maybe I can do that. And I think this is really important when we're working with an older adult population because sometimes people are ageist, have internalized ageism. Like we hear things like, I'm too old for that. I can't do that. And they just believe that about themselves. And so they need to see people that are their own age that look like them in order for them to kind of start to build that belief. Well, maybe I can do that too. And I see this a lot with parkour and outdoor things and doing things on playgrounds because we just don't see a lot of that in mainstream. But when we see people, older people that look adults on playgrounds, that's just a new thing in general, adults on playgrounds, because usually kids are on playgrounds. So that can help them start to build that belief. And I think us as coaches, I'm sure everybody here is challenging your participants and you're doing new and innovative things because that's just what Agents of Movement is all about. We need to showcase those things. We need to have pictures of those things and display those images because so many people have limiting beliefs about themselves based on age alone. And we know that that is not a limiting factor for people. And another thing is encouragement. So what language is used? So how can we encourage people? And what kind of things can we say other than you can do this? You got this, right? That sounds encouraging. And in some contexts it is, but I want you to think in scenarios where that might not be encouraging. It kind of seems like the go-to option, like you can do this. But I want to challenge everyone to think about, is that actually appropriate for the person and the scenario that you're working with? A lot of times people say, be careful. Is that encouragement, be careful? Or maybe we can say other things like, let's explore this together. Or, hey, you've got options. Or, you've handled that really well. That can also look like encouragement other than you can do this. And one thing I want to talk about why you can do this or you got it might not be appropriate is, again, it's set and setting. Do you know that person? Do you have a good relationship with that person? Are you aware of their capabilities? Do you know how long they've been practicing this movement that you've been doing? Because if you're saying, hey, you can do this, and that person doesn't think that they can, well, now they're running up against something with their coach. Their coach believes something that they can't, and now they're fearful of doing something, and then their coach wants them to do, and they don't want to do it because they genuinely don't feel that they can. So there needs to be some trusting relationship there, and to have some kind of history with that person for them to trust you to say, you can do this, you got this. That relationship needs to be built. And one story that I shared in a newsletter, and maybe some of you saw this, that this actually worked really well. And it doesn't come from a coach. Sometimes it comes from other participants. So a friend of mine, she's in her 80s and she was doing a line dancing class and she went with her friend, same age, getting her friend out of the house. They did this line dancing class and there was a grapevine, which you're crossing one leg over the other. And my friend Vicky noticed that her friend wasn't doing the grapevine. She was doing a step touch. And she told her friend, she's like, why aren't you doing the grapevine? You can do the grapevine. And her friend was scared. Her friend was scared that she was going to lose balance. She was like, I don't know if I can. And she's like, no, you can do it. So her friend did the grapevine and she did it successfully. And she was so surprised. And she was like, oh my gosh, I did it. So now she had this newfound confidence because her friend, a peer, who again, social modeling, she saw Vicky was doing these things. So, and then she got Vicky's encouragement. So now it's a trusted source that believes she can do this and has had witnessed her capabilities. And then she did it. So that encouragement doesn't always have to come from us, the coaches. It can come from other participants. And we can talk about that with our classes too. Like, how can we encourage others? Like, what does encouragement look like for you personally? Like, how do you like to be encouraged? It's not always, you can do it, you got this. It's sometimes having more targeted, more intentional language. You've got options. So we can think about what language can reinforce fear. Like what's on the opposite end of things? Like what might reinforce fear? And one thing I can think of is don't fall. We say that a lot to people. Don't fall. Be careful. Yes, active listener rather than an observer. Yes, encouragement. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sometimes encouragement isn't always an action. It isn't always actually doing an activity with somebody. It's listening and an observer. Absolutely. So thinking, and you can just think about like what might reinforce fear. Sometimes we talk about bad things that can happen. I've seen this happen in class where it's like, we're going to learn balance because you don't want to fall and break a hip. We're going to, make sure that we don't become frail. Like we're talking about all these things like about decline. And it's starting to get people to think like, oh, I'm older, I'm getting more frail. I could injure myself. Yeah, a pressure to perform, definitely. So if we're setting up success as like, you need to be able to do this thing and that makes you a successful person, now that person that came in that had that trepidation, that had that fear they couldn't perform, wasn't sure if this class was for them, well, now that fear is just heightened because now we made it about performance. So sometimes we have to think about ways that we might unintentionally be reinforcing that fear. And then the other thing is emotional states. So physical and emotional states. So sometimes people are, when they're trying something new, their heart rate's going to increase, right? Their heart's beating faster. Maybe they have a little bit of sweaty palms. And what are those physiological senses that come up when people are trying something new or they're trying to, build up that confidence? And we need to normalize that, right? So how can we help people understand that, during something new that you might find that your heart rate's going to increase. This isn't a sign that you shouldn't do it. It's just a sign like, hey, this is new. I haven't been here before. Normalizing and helping people interpret those experiences as not necessarily dangerous, but it's normal. So it's not a surprise when those things come up, especially when they're trying something new. So that self-efficacy, that sense of belonging, that social persuasion, that social modeling, all those play a role in how people how they experience success and how they are having a source of confidence. They have that from peers, they're building that up within themselves. So all of that is really important. Okay, so we're going to talk about one more thing, and that's psychological safety, and then we're going to get into a little activity. Okay, and I'm just going to ask anybody, I'll ask everybody here. We've all been participants, right? We're all participants before we were coaches. So can you tell me about a time, and feel free to pop this in the chat, like it briefly, what was something that a coach did that helped you build confidence? Invoke, yeah, braille, yeah, elephant words. Yes. Yeah, those are elephant words. Cheered me on when I succeeded. Yeah, so having that cheerleader, um, somebody that believes in you. So I'll just tell you, and if you have an actual an instance that you want to talk about, feel free to raise your hand and they'll let you, you can come off of mute and talk about a specific scenario that you may have had. So I'll tell you, I've always struggled with doing cartwheels. Like cartwheels have never been helpful for me. Yeah, breaking things down, extra time with me. Yeah. So I went to this adult gymnastics class and they were doing cartwheels and I was like, this is just going to be an epic failure because I could never do a cartwheel. And one of the coaches took me aside and he worked with me one-on-one and he's like, hey, I think you can do this. And I had this like little individual coaching session with this coach. So somebody believed in me and took me aside from the group and did a little, and it wasn't shameful or anything. It wasn't like, oh, you suck, you really need some extra help. It was more of like you got this. I think you can do this. I think you have the skills. Let me just help you break this down for you. So that helped me get that confidence. So at 4 years old, I was not able to do a cartwheel. At 40, I was because a coach helped, take me aside and believed in me that I could do that. Yeah, very specific, useful critiques, breaking things down, extra time. Yeah, I think that's where it's really helpful. Group settings are great, but sometimes people just need that little one-on-one time to help them master that skill outside of the pressure of being in a group. So if we can kind of take people aside for a few minutes and give them some one-on-one coaching, it doesn't have to be a full-on personal training session. Sometimes it's just 5 or 10 minutes of getting a little extra coaching. Okay, so let's talk about psychological safety. That was great. So what is psychological safety? It's when people feel welcomed, they feel respected, they feel included, and they feel supported. So think about how you welcome people into class. And if you have any rituals that you do with people in your classes, pop those into the chat. And rituals can be maybe you just call everybody by name, maybe you ask somebody a question. For me, I love to get in early to class and have that little time to connect with people before class and get to know my participants and know something about them. So it's like, hey, Jane, I'm so glad you're back here at class. How was that visit with your grandkids last weekend? Like just knowing something about their lives shows that they matter, that you're happy that they're there, that you know a little bit more about them than just their name. So thinking about those welcoming rituals. And if anybody has anything in particular, feel free to raise your hand if you want to go off mute and talk about it, or you can pop it in the chat. Okay. Jacqueline says during the session, we make sure to give each person, tell me how their day was. Yes, a check-in. A check-in is great. And a check-in can be a lot of different things. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It can be like on a scale from 1 to 10, where's your energy today? 10 is top energy. And those can be really quick check-ins. I've heard check-ins like, what did you have for breakfast this morning? And they went around the circle and it was like 15 minutes later. So it was kind of a long check-in. So sometimes we have to be thoughtful. Yeah, check-in too. Yes. So check-in questions are great. I love the energy question, like something that they can give like a one-word answer where it's everybody gets to contribute, but it's not going to take up too much time, can be helpful. But check-in questions are great. Okay, so when we're creating psychological safety, we want to normalize learning. So this is also talking about like successful. What's successful? You're here, you win. So it's not so much of the performance mindset, like we're all going to do this. It's more of an exploration mindset. We're all doing this and we're all trying this together. So it's this thought of like, there's no perfect way. We're all experimenting. Everybody moves differently. Things like that. Those are things that we can say to kind of open up that everybody's on their own journey. There is no standard that we're trying to meet. Everyone's trying this in their own unique way. And along with that, it's focusing on progress and not perfection, right? So many times we can get so stuck in like having a perfect form on something or doing something a perfect way. But instead we want to be focusing on the effort that people came in, that they're consistently showing up, that they participated more than like, hey, you did that perfectly, or you were the fastest person, or that looks great. That exercise you're doing in perfect form. Like there's now a standard for people to meet this perfection. That's not what we're going to reward. We're going to reward more of that people that they're showing up and we're noticing their effort. Last week I noticed that, you had more difficulty with that, and this week it looks easy for you. So we're acknowledging their progress, and it's all about that progress and not the perfection. And then a really big one is choice. So when we give people choice, it makes people feel like they have control, right? So it's always showing them different options, and there's always a permission to opt out. And it's the fact that they're an expert on your own body. Like I'm going to show you things, but I'm going to trust that you're going to choose something that's going to work best for you today. And we're not going to judge it. So giving people that opportunity to explore movement that works for them. And we don't know what people are working with. We don't know what kind of past injuries they may have. Their bodies might not be able to do things that we're asking them to do, especially in group settings. We don't always get a full, health history on somebody. We don't have that time always to really understand what people are showing up with. So we have to trust that they're making the right decisions, and doing scans, like having scans of your body. And that's part of your check-in. Like, gosh, like what did you came in today? Like, let's have that part of our check-in. Did we show up and we're a little tired? Maybe we haven't had enough to drink. Maybe we're showing up high energy. How might that influence the choices we make today and how we might move today? So just to recap, psychological safety. So we're normalizing learning. We're focusing on progress, not perfection. We're offering choice. And I'm sorry, those are the three. we're offering choice. So and having that welcoming experience. So there's the fourth one, sorry. So those are all things that help people feel safe in the settings, that's going to help them want to take challenges and try new things so that we can set that up in our environment. Okay, before we move on to the activity, I want to see if anybody has questions, or participants pick the question. Oh, I love it. Any other thoughts on anything that we just talked about that we want to contribute? Okay, I will take silence in the chat, and no raised hands is a no. Okay, so let me just see how many people we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9. Okay, perfect. All right, we're going to do 3 groups of 3. I'm going to do 3 groups of 3. If you rather not be in a breakout room, okay, you don't have to accept the invite. Okay, so let's do this. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to have, I'm just going to assign group leaders. This means nothing. I'm going to assign people to a group with Catherine. I'm going to assign people to a group with Kathy, and assign group to people with Rebecca. So Catherine, people in your group, I'm going to give you a scenario. Okay. So the scenario, and the 3 people in your group, one of you is going to be the coach, one of you is going to be the participant, and one of you is going to be an observer. And you can choose who is going to be who. All right, so this is going to be some role playing within your group. And I'll give you the scenario. So the participant, if you are the participant, think about how you might show up as that person, and feel free to create a story for yourself. So here's the 3 scenarios. So Catherine, your group is going to be the hesitant first timer. So somebody is coming to your class for the first time, and maybe they're not sure if they wanted to come. They're not really participating. They're half participating. You can just see there's a lot of hesitancy. So that's your person. That is your scenario. If you are in Catherine's group and you decide that you want to be a participant, think about, why are you hesitant? Like, create a story for yourself, create a persona for yourself. Okay, And then the next scenario, so this is going to be with Kathy's group. Um, they are someone that does not want to add any challenge. So they are not taking on any challenges. You giving them all these options and they seem like they're capable, but they're not doing any of the challenging options. So that is your scenario. And then the last one, so this is going to be Rebecca's group. They do not have the physical abilities for class. So you have somebody that comes to class and it could be that you're teaching a really high level class and this person, maybe they're coming in with a device or something that it's very clear that they are not able to do the things that you have set out for class. How do we deal with that scenario? Okay, so those are the three scenarios. So I'm going to break you out into groups, and again, feel free to opt out if you do not want to be in a breakout room, and I'll see that, and I can always just assign more people to a room if needed. So room one, assign. So we're going to do Catherine, Kaylee. Okay. This is going to be Kathy. And then I'm going to join the group with Rebecca. And hold on just a minute. I'm just assigning these. Assign. Okay. And then I'll open up all rooms. And again, feel free to opt out if you'd rather not. And okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to give you, we'll do 7 minutes. I'm going to time it after 5 minutes. We'll do some role playing. So you have the participant, the observer. And then the last couple of minutes, we're going to just recap and think about what choices you made as a coach. Participants, think about what choices you made. You're going to have dialogue with your coach. Are you going to choose to make different choices or are you not? Or what is your course of action? And think about why you're choosing those things. Okay, so I'm opening up all rooms and we'll see everyone in 7 minutes. All right. All right. Okay.
Sure how that was going to work. This is the
Hi,
first time I've
Rebecca.
used the breakout room, so
Breakout rooms. Have you done breakout rooms before?
no,
Oh,
first
okay.
time for me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so you just get to be in a smaller group of people and it's just kind of a different way to work rather than always being in the large
Okay,
group.
great.
So yeah, I thought we would try this out. Let me just set my timer. This is also, you all are guinea pigs for me because I haven't tried it doing a session like this before. So this is like a learning lab for myself as well.
Okay.
Okay, any questions on the assignment?
What was our scenario again?
So we have the person who is they are they do not have the physical abilities for class.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, not perfect, but yeah. Okay.
Does somebody want to be the coach? Someone want to be the participant?
I don't have a preference.
I don't either, but I just want to say this was kind of good for me because I was teaching a yoga class and someone came in and had like a laundry list of things that were wrong, that they couldn't do this kind of movement, couldn't do that kind of movement. And as the instructor, I had 8 people in the class, and this one person who just probably should not have come to yoga based on all the physical limitations. I was trying to help her modify things on the fly by putting her seated in a chair rather than on the ground and the mat. And so it ended up being a disaster. And, because I felt like nobody in the room got a good experience. So,
Yeah.
as the coach, I didn't feel like I did a good job. So I don't know if I would make a good coach or not,
No,
but I would love to learn what I could have done better in that situation.
Yeah, well, let's talk about it. Let's just use that as a scenario and we'll just talk about it with
Okay.
the three of us. Yeah.
Okay,
So
great.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all been in that scenario. I've definitely been in that
Mhm.
scenario. Shelley, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
I just felt like my attention was just so divided that, I'd get the participants who had done yoga before and they had, an idea of what the poses were. I'd get them settled into a pose, but yet it was very distracting for them to listen to me try to work with the person who was trying to modify the poses and do that in a chair as opposed to being
right.
on the floor, on the mat, and that sort of thing. And then there were certain movements because she had osteoporosis and issues with her spine where she couldn't do twists. And then, you know, you feel like, oh, I've got to come up with something right away. And it's like, okay, what can I do for her because she can't do a twisting movement? And I just felt like I was totally unprepared for that. And
Yeah.
just like I said, that
Yeah.
nobody on either side got a good
Right.
experience
No,
that
yeah.
day.
That is, wow. I've totally been there. Similar scenario. So when you reflect, Rebecca, what do you think? Like, what are your thoughts after you, like 2020 hindsight? Have you had any thoughts about?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think I had this was a group that some of the people had been in my classes before and some of them were new. And the new people, I had sent the medical questionnaire and the PARQ and those things ahead of time, and they were good enough to complete them, send them back to me. But this participant came in like 2 minutes before class was starting with the papers in her hand. And as I'm looking through them and skimming through them, I realized, wow, you shouldn't have been here. So I think hindsight, I might have pulled her aside and just said, why don't you observe?
Hmm.
And as you observe, you can kind of think within your own mind, yes, this is for me. Maybe I need something different. Um, something along those lines, as opposed to trying to include her in the class and try to adjust to all of her limitations while still running the good experience for the remainder of the class.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And I don't know, maybe there was a
Yeah.
better way than just
No,
saying, why don't you just be an observer this time?
yeah, I think that's great. Yeah, and Shelley, do you have any other ideas on that? Have you
No,
had
I think that
given that
actually
much thought?
sounds very wise. Like
Hmm.
if you had if you had asked for that information ahead of time and she didn't follow through on her part, you can say, because you didn't do as was asked, I'm going to ask you to participate by watching today. And maybe picture in your mind your body going through this and how it would feel, make it a visual
Oh, that's
imagery
good.
class.
Yeah.
Mm. Mm. I
You
like
know, I mean, there's you can, you can say science talks so much about just if you just picture your body going through these things, there's benefit there. And that way we know today that's safe. Safe is probably not the good word. We know that that can be experienced in your body in a good way, and then we can talk more afterwards. But giving her something, because if you give, like I have just used the visual imagery thing, and it makes people feel like, oh, I have my own special way of doing this, and it gives them some ownership. And yeah.
I love
Yeah,
that. I
it's
love
really
that.
great. Thank you.
Yeah, I did not think about the imagery thing. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that thinking about just having them observe because I've been in
Mhm.
similar scenarios where I have a hard time telling people that they can't come to class because they made this effort and they come with their walker and they made this
Mhm.
effort to come and they're coming with the intent to move. That if I have time for them in ahead of time, like, hey, in this class we do, we're doing a lot of standing work. I'll give you some choices, but trying to get some time on them one-on-one to maybe redirect them to other classes. Um,
Right.
but yeah, I have a really hard time saying no to somebody, but I think the observer can still be a way for them to be in class and say like, hey, I'm going to let you choose the activities that you want, but this is the class. This class was meant to be standing or whatever that may be.
Mhm.
Um, And then, yeah, trying to redirect them to classes where I think that they might find more success or more comfort level. And sometimes that's actually meant, for me, it's actually meant like having a conversation with their children, because their children drop them off at a class and they don't realize, they're not reading the class schedule. They're not reading that this was a class that is designed to be harder. And so it's just like, oh, well, every class is a chair-based class, right? Because this is a senior center. Like, no, it's actually not the case. So sometimes it's educating the staff and the children that are bringing them to class, because they might not have awareness of what the level of class it is. And I think that that can be helpful too. Sometimes it's
Great.
not just the people, it's that their support network maybe directed them to class. So I think that's something else to keep in mind. But yeah, it's super hard. I have welcome to the class. Rebecca and I've had the same exact experience. I'm like, I know nobody's having a good experience. Like, I'm having a terrible experience. My advanced people are, this person isn't. It's just like all around not good. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, this is super great. Yeah, thank you for the conversation. We're gonna go back to the main room and Rebecca, do you feel comfortable talking about your scenario? And Shelley, I would love it if you share a little bit about the imagery thing.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, we'll go back to the main room. Okay, breakout rooms. Let's close all rooms. Okay, let's see. Okay, we will close all rooms. Okay, all right. Okay, so it'll take about a minute for everyone to come back. Alrighty. So that was your first breakout room experience, Rebecca?
Yeah, yeah. I don't do a lot of Zoom, so this
Oh,
was
okay.
new.
Yeah. I just love being in smaller groups too. It just gives you a chance to
Yeah.
have more concentrated conversations, but yeah, not always.
Yeah. It was,
Okay,
it was good. It worked.
yeah, good. So yeah, everybody else is their rooms are going to close in 20 seconds and then they'll be joining us back. And hopefully we'll have enough time. We should have enough time to recap and go over communication skills. Okay. Welcome back, everyone.
Hey.
Hey. All right. Hopefully everyone had a great breakout room experience.
Yeah, fun.
Okay. I really would love everyone's feedback after this. You're all going to get this recording, but feel free to email me afterwards. This has been a bit of a laboratory for me as well, trying different ways of conducting learning sessions aside from a regular webinar. So, okay. So everybody should be back. Does anybody want to volunteer from the group to talk a little bit about your scenario and how you dealt with it? Do I have any volunteers? If not, I'll just volunteer my group. No? Okay.
I can start
Go
with
ahead.
Carlos and I. We were just the two of us. We waited a little bit to see if a third person would join. Carlos was getting his steps, by the way, so because he wanted to join this webinar, but he also had to get his steps in, so he decided to do two things at once. We introduced ourselves to each other and basically brainstormed as though we were, I think, mostly as well, a bit of as coaches and people trying to facilitate and trying to anticipate what a participant might be going through. And Carlos can jump in anytime. Carlos spoke to talking with people and giving them examples of other clients that might be in their same cohort, um, who might have had the same mindset
So
that they
remind
do,
us.
which is, I'm sorry, this is a group that does, or a participant that does not want to take on any challenges. That was our group. I should have said that. Yeah. So we're dealing with someone, and why don't they want to take any challenges? Are they actually resistant and don't really want to, really truly don't want? Or are they afraid? So a little bit of exploration comes from us. If it's the fear, if it's the concern, the stories can work about other participants who were in that position, to try give them something to imagine, a way of getting through it. And that the first step can be the hardest, some of that coaching stuff. I know that the clients I work with are all frail. And with our frontline staff, because we go see people in their homes in an assisted living program, and all our frontline staff cue people and help people with functional movement. It's about giving them the itty bitty challenge and not the great big challenge. It's about maybe, the fifth rep being held an extra 4 seconds, 5 seconds instead of let down quickly. It's about going, can you go a little half inch more if you're moving yourself into a stretch? It's itty bitty. And we also have come to realize that maintenance is, and being able and not losing ground can be the biggest challenge. So it's not about gaining or doing more. It's about holding on to what you got.
100%.
And then we give them that kind of feedback that they're still doing well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love it.
Like you said, showing up
great.
is the biggest step. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, it was great to talk to Kathy and work through our scenario. I think the biggest takeaway is you want to meet people where they are, right?
Yeah.
And then have them take that first step. That first step can often be the hardest. And what I've discovered over the years is once they take that first step, then the next one is easier. And then the one after that is easier. Once they start to see results, sometimes that's enough motivation for them to keep on going.
Yeah, for sure. Love it. Great. Okay. Catherine, anybody from your group that wants to go?
I'll introduce my group.
Okay.
We had the hesitant first timer, and the group was me and Jacelyn and Kaylee. And so Jacelyn played the coach and Kaylee played the participant. As the observer, one thing I noticed was that when the participant was hesitant, that Jacelyn as coach is like, okay, we'll do this. Just didn't call any attention to it or add to the participants' anxiety by making it seem like they were wrong for feeling hesitant. Just accepted it and moved on. And I'd like to hear their perspectives as well.
Yeah. From your teammates, you mean?
Yeah, Jacelyn, Kaylee, come on.
Jason? I love it because there's no judgment. Go ahead.
We did a good job about bouncing ideas off of each other. So we went through the scenario and then we just kind of debriefed after what did not go well, and just providing those options and having those bag of tricks to be able to kind of rotate in the moment. If someone's a little bit hesitant, giving them an alternative option that still provides success.
Great. Love it. Anything else, Jason, or is it good?
No, I agree with all of them.
Okay. Great. Excellent. Okay. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, I think the no judgment thing is a really big deal, making it okay. Okay, so I'll pivot to my group. Rebecca, we talked through a scenario that she had that I think maybe a lot of us have had, which is you have somebody that comes to class that is clearly not at the physical ability for class, or so what do we do in that? So Rebecca, I'll let you go ahead and talk about your experience.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it just had happened recently, so it's kind of interesting that this was the group I was put in. But Shelley and Erin and I, the situation I had is I was teaching a yoga class that was a lot of floor work. So we're down on the mat. No crazy advanced position. So it's kind of like maybe advanced beginner class. And there were 8 people, and So probably 5 of the 8 had been in classes with me before, and they were comfortable with the movements and the poses. The others that were new, I had sent them all of the paperwork and the medical forms and everything ahead of time. 2 of them returned them and 1 did not. And the one that didn't runs into the room, well, not really run, but came into the room about 2 or 3 minutes before the class was scheduled to start with her paperwork. And as I'm skimming through it, I realized that there's so many limitations that this person has, that physically they wouldn't be able to get on the floor, spinal issues. So anything that was twisting would not work for them. And so in the moment, I'm trying to please everyone because I hate to say no. And so it ended up being a disaster. I'm trying to modify movements for this person in a chair. Then even in the chair, there were some things that couldn't be done physically. And so I feel like the class was not good for anyone. It wasn't good for me as the instructor, wasn't good for the new person who had the limitations, and it wasn't good for the people who had come expecting to have a really good class. And so, as I'm talking through hindsight, what I could have done and what would have worked better was perhaps asking the participant to just observe this time, given all of the limitations on her medical form. Watch and observe, and then think about whether or not this would work for you, and we would do another class at another time. She could join in. We'd have time to have a discussion about ways we could accommodate those limitations. And I really love the feedback from Shelley about the using imagery and visualizing your body in the movements as part of that observation. So I'm going to let Shelley talk a little bit about that, because I thought that was like something that really would have worked, and want to know more about that because I think it would work in other situations, not just this particular one.
Yeah. So sometimes when I run into something similar to this, I will use the thought process of, okay, like Olympic athletes will use visual imagery as part of their actual literal training. So if you throw in Olympic athletes, that gives some credibility for people to think, oh, this isn't just like some woo-woo stuff. There is some science behind it. And just telling them, picture yourself doing this either in full capacity or however you think your body could do it. What would you feel? What would feel good? What might be hard? And or just picture doing it really well and repeating that over and over in your mind, and just the benefits to the body and the mind just through the visual imagery. So.
Oh, I love that. It is like participating, and for people that might not be able to have the physical abilities, like in Rebecca's situation. Yeah, so I'm stealing that one. And one of the things that we had also talked about, and I know this has happened to me, where it's people come to class and you think like, why is this person coming to a class that's a high level class if they're coming in with, with some physical limitations? And I've experienced where their support network has brought them to class. Their daughter has brought them to this class. They didn't read the class description, or they're at a senior living community and one of the care staff brought them to the class, not knowing that this was a standing class or not knowing the level of class it was. So sometimes it's just having that communication with their support network and making sure that they're getting directed to the right class that's maybe better for their physical abilities. So always trying to understand like why that happened, why they ended up in class, and maybe there wasn't they didn't know the level needed or anything. So this is great. This was a great discussion. I think these are situations that we've all run into in some way, shape, or form. And I think it's great to talk to other coaches and instructors, like how do we deal with these sticky situations? Because being adaptable is so necessary when you're working with this population. We just never know what's going to get handed to us at any time in class. And it's never going to be perfect, but how can we best deal with these situations and help people feel comfortable in class and keep that confidence so that they continue to be active, even if it's maybe not in our class, it's somewhere else, or that they feel successful and that they've won just by showing up. So great. I would love to hear your feedback afterwards if you like the breakout sessions or not. I think it's just a great way to get to know other coaches. It's just a little bit more personal rather than in a larger group setting. So just a quick little recap of ways that we can, some strategies for addressing fear. And what you're going to get after this is you'll get the recording, but you're also going to get a takeaway from, oh, we have somebody admitting. So a takeaway from everything that we discussed. So you'll kind of have a wrap up, a takeaway sheet, wrap up of everything we discussed. And then I'm also going to give you a movement leaders guide, language guide. So it's talking about all the language that we can use in our class to help encourage confidence and address ageism that might happen in class, how we direct those limiting beliefs. So you'll get that after this, and those are just 2 additional resources. But some quick strategies that we can do for addressing fear is that we make it discussable, right? So things that like, what concerns do you have about participating today? What would help you feel more comfortable? Like normalizing that. It's okay to be scared. And we can talk about our own fears too, and make that comfortable for the other participants so that everyone is discussing their fear. It's a normal thing. And then we're using that gradual exposure. So this is a lot like what Kathy was talking about, little by little. How can we inch people along so that they're making some manageable steps for them? And okay, I'm gonna mute. Okay, and is everyone on? I hear some background noise. So we're giving gradual exposure, and then we're reframing those setbacks. So rather than like, oh, you can't do this, you're still learning. This is just information. This is telling us what to practice next. It's all about that progress. So our language can really help people keep them continue on that path and not let them feel like they're a failure. And then teaching recovery skills. Like, what if you can't do this? Like, how would you recover your balance? How do we get up from the floor? How can we make this feel more safe for you? How can we give you some other options? So exploring things so that there's a fallback method if they can't do this thing, and it's okay, but they have those recovery skills. So this is helping people be less fearful because they have a plan. So those are all ways that we can help address fear in our classes, and we can help build that confidence. We talked about this, the language that we use, how we can encourage people, the social modeling, normalizing those physical sensations that come up when we're trying something new. Those are all things that we can help create that comfortable setting for people, because a lot of times, we've been doing this for a long time, but this is for many of our people, it's their first time and they're still new to this. And we can really set the tone as leaders for how we bring people into class. Okay, thank you all so much for being here. I'm going to just talk about a few things that I have planned for Agents of Movement. So if you haven't looked on I have it now called the Learn tab on agentsofmovement.com. It was events, but it's now Learn. So we have learning labs coming up in September, October, November. Those are interactive discussions with thought leaders in the space. So the first one in September is exercise to experience, from exercise to experience. And we're talking about how we design experience that people want to come back to. And then we have in October, we're talking about how to create belonging in class. So creating connection through physical activity. How do we do that? How do we build connections in class? I have some really great people on this. Everybody that has been on the podcast, people that have been on the podcast are some of the returning guests for these learning labs. And then learning lab, the last one in November, is the future of movement in the longevity economy. How do we bring different movement experience, innovative experiences to this environment where people are living longer? So check those out. They're all free. It's better if you can join live, but if not, of course, you'll get the recording. And then I just added in a coaching session with my most recent guests. So this is a really great way to, if you're in transition in your work life or personal life, Dana Hilmer is a transition coach. And so it's a great session for you to be around in. It's interactive. So check all those out, agentsofmovement.com. But thank you all so much for being here. You'll get a follow-up email. Give me your feedback. This is my first time trying something like this. I really want to know if this was beneficial or not. I appreciate the feedback. Thank you all so much for being here. Yes.
Thanks, Erin.
Thanks, Kaylee. Thanks, Carlos. Ron, you got in the last couple minutes, but you got 2 minutes in. So all good. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.